Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. It would appear that unbeaten up-and-comer Nayeli Rodriguez is set to return to action in El Paso, Texas, July 12th at the County Coliseum against an opponent that has yet to be announced, coming off that competitive draw with another unbeaten up-and-comer like herself in Nat Dove on what was an MVP show. I liked what I saw from Nayeli because she handled herself really well in what was a sink-or-swim situation. I think they both did, Nat Dove and Nayeli. Nayeli Rodriguez, who sports a professional record of 4 wins with no losses, 1 draw, no recorded knockouts, not yet. Quite the boxer. Now, what stood out in the fight between her and Natalie was Natalie's power and Nayeli's boxing, that even though she was getting caught with some hard shots, she was able to adapt, able to adjust, and make it competitive. Nayeli is quite the boxer. This upcoming fight in July will be her 4th fight of this year. You heard that right. She already fought in February, already fought in April, then again in May. Now she's fighting again in July against an opponent that has yet to be announced, and I don't think it will be against anyone as difficult or dangerous as Nat Dove. In all likelihood, Nayeli's next fight will be a bring-along kind of fight, a developmental fight, not a sink-or-swim fight like the one that she just had. And what is obvious, that if Nayeli is fighting an opponent that has yet to be announced on a King's Promotions show, she's not fighting Nat Dove again. I wondered if, because the fight was scored a draw, would they elect to stage an immediate rematch? I advised against it. I see a champion in Nayeli, and I see a champion in Nat Dove, that if you want to do a rematch, do it later when they're more developed. Hell, wait until they're both champions if you have to, because these are two very talented fighters. Nayeli's fight is scheduled for 4 rounds in the flyweight division. Flyweight, that is where Gabby Fundora currently reigns as that division's undisputed champion. And so you figure that by the time Nayeli is ready to challenge for a world title, Gabby Fundora may have left the division. She may have moved up. There's not much left for Gabby to do here, but there is plenty more work that needs doing for young Nayeli, who seems to have aligned herself with King's Promotions. King's Promotions, they used to promote Alicia Baumgartner before they signed to Matchroom, a well-to-do promotional outfit that, no, it's not one of the bigger ones, and they don't have a broadcast deal, but they do a good job of keeping their fighters active and busy. It's good that Nayeli isn't sitting around collecting dust after the Nat Dove fight, that they're getting her back out there. On a schedule like this, Nayeli could end up fighting 5, maybe even 6 times in this calendar year, because the fight in July will be her 4th. And I've really taken a fondness to this fighter. I like this fighter, and I see a champion in her. She's quite the polished boxer. And so you figure that Gabby Fundora, the only champion at this weight, may end up moving up in weight in the not-so-distant future, at which point all the alphabet titles she holds will become available for a fighter like Nayeli to fight for. That the landscape is set to change at flyweight very soon, and we could be looking at one of its next champions. So keep your eyes peeled for the ring return of Nayeli Rodriguez in July against an opponent that has yet to be announced, and we'll talk more about it as the fight date approaches. Men's welterweight news. Oscar De La Hoya recently said, in reference to Ryan Garcia, that he would like for Ryan to take the whole year off. getting his mind straight, getting it comfortable where it feels good. All the more reason I don't consider Ryan Garcia to be a good fighter in any capacity, at least not at world level, not by any stretch. He only fought once last year, and we all know why. And if he only fights once, this one, I don't see how that's good for him. You already lost all your momentum last year. Now you want to stifle it even further? Even if you are coming off a loss, the sooner you get back out there, the sooner you can get back in the winner's bracket. I remember when Joseph Parker was stopped in brutal fashion by Joe Joyce. He didn't take a year off. He didn't take a sabbatical. No, he came right back. And what were a series of smaller fights as he was attempting to rebuild himself, and many would say he succeeded, because he is on the cusp of world honors, coming off of some of the biggest victories of his professional boxing career. So the idea that Ryan should sit out the rest of this year with so much of it remaining is foolhardy. And this is all the more reason I don't consider Ryan an elite fighter by any stretch of the imagination, in any capacity. What, you didn't get your mind right last year? He sat out most of it. Now what Oscar wants him to do is sit out for even longer? You're trying to fix a problem that can't be fixed. That's what I see. They like to call him King Rye. The king of wishful thinking, as far as I'm concerned. One of the would-be four kings of this younger generation. They tried to liken these guys to Duran, to Leonard, to Hearns, to Hagler, but I don't see it. And neither did a caller on the Boxing Voice.
Nah, Ryan ain't one of the four kings. Let's just stop calling all them niggas the four kings. The four kings caught fades and fought each other. These niggas is like the four Instagram models. That's what they really are, the four Twitter kings, the four Twitter trolls. Does not call these niggas kings no more. It was a good little marketing ploy to get us excited about fades to come in the future about 4 or 5 years ago, but the fades didn't happen. So these niggas ain't the king. The real kings was Chocolatito and Estrada and all them niggas down there Kit-Katting them. They actually fought each other, the hardcore four. So all that four kings, ain't no four kings of this generation. The main four king talking about fighting Jake Paul. He ain't fought Shakur, he ain't fought Devin, he ain't fought T.O., he ain't fought nobody.
I agreed with all of that from the beginning to the end. That cluster of youngsters, just because there are 4 or 5 of them in this generation, doesn't make them a parallel to their predecessors. That if there were 4 kings in the sport of boxing that you could liken to the 4 kings of old, it would be Chocolatito, it would be Gallo Estrada, Carlos Cuadras, Sorun Visai, maybe Kazuto Ioka, but not these guys. But because Americans don't normally watch the lower weights like Fly and Superfly, they're not as hip to those fighters as they are to these fighters. Ryan, Devin, Gervonta, Teofimo, Shakur. Of that crop, of that cycle of youngsters, I would say that some have more of a claim towards being one of the 4 kings of this generation. Shakur's a 3-weight champion, Teofimo's a 2-weight champion, so was Devin, and he was undisputed. But ultimately, what made the 4 kings, wasn't just their accomplishments. It was that they fought each other. They all fought each other. Roberto Duran fought Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard. Leonard fought Hearns. Leonard fought Hagler. Hagler fought Hearns. Hagler fought Duran. Duran fought Hearns. They all fought each other. On top of being 4 of the very best fighters of their generation, they all fought each other. Now, I would not say that this crop of youngsters are a parallel for those 4 fighters in any way, shape, or form. Though if I had to try to liken 4 fighters in this generation to the 4 kings of old, Ryan Garcia would not be among them. For what? For having done what? What was supposed to be the biggest win of his career is now tainted by a ped fiasco and ruled a no contest. He's coming off a no contest and a decision loss. What on earth has Ryan Garcia done his entire boxing career that anyone should think of him, that anyone would liken him to one of the 4 kings or one of the best fighters of this generation? Are you joking? There are so many fighters in this generation that get overlooked that are already more accomplished than Ryan is. Fighters like Kazuto Ioka, Kosei Tanaka, Junto Nakatani, Kenshiro Taraji, Jai Opataya, 2-time cruiserweight champion Jai Opataya that will be in action this weekend, but they don't get the media push that Ryan Garcia got, and that's the difference. This whole parallel was manufactured by the media. I blame them. All the attention that Ryan ever got was manufactured by them in tandem with his social media following. And that's really why he's popular. It's not because of anybody that he had fought, and it's not because of anybody that he had beat. It was based on the potential for Ryan to become a big star because he was already popular on social media. Now, if only his boxing acumen were on par with his popularity, then you'd be cooking with rice. But he's just not that kind of fighter, especially not if his own promoter recommends that he take the rest of the year off. This younger generation, they consider guys like us grumpy old men, boomers. In their eyes, we're always shading the youth, shading this younger generation, but they're the ones comparing themselves to our generation while not being up to scratch. When you compare a Ryan Garcia to a Roberto Duran, or any one of the Four Kings, you've got to be joking.
I just want to know what number makes sense for you. What's fair?
I got $10 million for that fight.
That's a lie.
How you know that's a lie?
To fight Canelo?
Yeah.
That's a lie.
I'm doing it for the opportunity, baby.
Yeah, that's
The
good.
legacy.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's
You hear
good. Yeah.
You believe that?
Yeah, 100%. If he said 10 million, it's 10 million.
The legacy outweigh the money.
That's true. I respect that.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
3-time undisputed. Ooh, coming soon.
That's when you retire because basically there's nothing you could do after that. If you were able to get 3-time undisputed,
Come on,
3 different weight classes, there's nothing you can accomplish after that, right? Because 68,
Yeah, he's going to retire
unless you,
after that.
I might go back
unless
down
you
to
went
54.
down, right?
To fight who?
And do it
But
again.
you can't get all of them though. It's too much trying to get all of them.
I might
might
go
win.
back down and do it again.
Do it again.
He going to retire.
It's too many. If there was one person with all the belts
don't
at
know what I'ma
154.
Nobody knows.
Those were a few tongue-in-cheek comments from Terence Crawford. We'll address them one by one. I, like Ak and Barack, do not believe that Terence Crawford stands to make only a meager $10 million from the Canelo Alvarez fight because that's in the neighborhood of what Edgar Berlanga made for the fight, and I hardly think that they're going to pay Terence the same amount that they paid Edgar. Terence is a lot more accomplished and a lot more well-known. He's taking a bigger risk than Edgar did. Moving up 2 weight classes for someone like Canelo, I don't believe for a second that all he stands to make is a meager $10 million. But if he was being disingenuous with his answer, it is because, well, that's a personal question. It's tantamount to somebody asking one of you, what do you make per week or bi-weekly? What do you make in a month? What do you make annually? What do you make in a year? It's tantamount to someone asking you what's in your checking account, what's in your savings. It's a personal question. Though because the fighters' purses are often publicized by the media and discussed amongst the fans, it doesn't seem as forward a question as it is. How much money are they paying you? Addressing Terence Crawford's comment that he's not fighting Canelo Alvarez for money per se, but the legacy, I actually agree with that. Listen, they're prize fighters, so in one way, shape, or form or another, they are always fighting for money, but money alone is not the reason that Terence is taking this fight because he could have made money right there at 154, unifying that division. Now, granted that fighting Canelo pays substantially more, but he's also in more jeopardy, more risk. Moving up 2 weight classes at his age, coming off of this much inactivity. If he's doing it, it's because in his own mind, he thinks he can win. That doesn't make it true, but that is his motivation. There was a separate offer for him to fight Conor McGregor, 2-fight engagement at a value of $200 million. This is corroborated by Conor McGregor himself, that if it were just about whoring your body out for the money, he would have fought Conor. I think the Canelo Alvarez fans are struggling with this most of all. They've been acting like a bunch of little bitches. All the shots they've been taking at Terence Crawford, all the microaggressions I've seen since this fight became a hot-button topic, they are nervous, and that's what that is, because they didn't act this way when it was John Ryder, when it was Jaime Munguia, or Edgar Berlanga. They didn't act this way. They're acting this way now because Terence makes them nervous. Going as far as poo-pooing all over the fight, but if Canelo weren't fighting Terence Crawford, well, who would he be fighting? You don't want him to fight Terence? Who do you want him to fight? Because he's not fighting David. He's not about to fight Dimitri again. Not that I like his chances against Dimitri in a rematch, because I don't. That you're so averse to this Terence Crawford fight, Well, what the hell would you have Canelo Alvarez do? He doesn't want to retire. He's got to fight somebody. I've noticed that. Those guys are nervous. That doesn't mean they have anything to be nervous about. None of this means that Terrence will beat Canelo Alvarez, but if they're angry about something, they're angry about that. They are afraid that Terrence might win. They both stand to make a lot of money, Canelo and Terrence, but it's Canelo who's in a compromising situation in the sense that Terrence can go up there and get a draw, and that would be a moral victory. Canelo's the one that's got everything to lose. His undisputed crown, his reputation. If a guy who jumped up 2 weight classes goes up there and draws with you, or if at any point he makes it competitive, it reflects poorly on Canelo, because he's the bigger guy, he's the younger guy. Terrence is at every conceivable disadvantage. So Canelo should theoretically make short work of him, but if he doesn't, well, yeah, it reflects poorly on Canelo. Canelo has reached a stage to where every fight that he's in, there's a lot on the line. Even the ones that he's favored to win, people are going to be hypercritical, scrutinize everything, because heavy is the head that wears the crown. And it's lonely at the top. Now, if by some chance Terrence Crawford were to pull off this miracle and beat Canelo, I don't think he then drops back down to 154 and goes on another undisputed run. That was yet another tongue-in-cheek comment. No, if Terrence Crawford were to win in September, I anticipate there might be a rematch with Canelo, a second fight. And you guys know how this works. If Terrence wins the first fight and Canelo wins the second, that leaves the door open for a third, a rubber match. I think that Terrence Crawford is very close to finishing out his career, even if he didn't want to say it. Now, why he wouldn't want to say it? Maybe he's one of these guys he don't like nobody being in his head, trying to figure him out, trying to have him pegged. Maybe he's like that. But I don't think for a second that if he beats Canelo Alvarez, he's going to put his 37 going on 38-year-old body through the rigors of a camp to boil back down to 154. It wouldn't make sense. A rematch with Canelo would be the most lucrative option and more high profile than anything at 154. I think he was just being cheeky when he said that. Here and now, I don't have a conclusive answer as to who I think is going to win that fight, because I do see an avenue for Terrence to win, but I also see one for Canelo, and I'm a fan of both, so I don't have a horse in the race. I'm just intrigued by what this is going to look like. Now, what I don't think it's going to look like is a shootout. I don't think it's going to be a barn burner. When you're talking about two very high-level boxers, they have a tendency to cancel each other out. They don't give each other all the openings that lesser boxers give them. So it's going to be a chess match. I anticipate it will be a tense battle where both men are vying for real estate, vying for range, and vying for openings, all while respecting each other. I think it'll be good, but I don't think it's going to be a shootout. I don't think it's going to be that kind of fight. In any event, we'll see. Those answers will come shortly.